Hi guys and welcome. So today I'm going to be going through my top 10 favourite films of all time. I hope you enjoy. Cue the title sequence. So these aren't going to be in any particular order, apart from maybe the last few that I will mention. They have always been in my kind of top 5, top 3. Most of these could potentially go up 1 or 2 spots. But before I get into it, I do want to go through some honourable mentions. So the first of my honourable mentions would be my favourite British gangster film, Snatch.
86 carats.
You know something that I don't?
Jeez, it's flawless.
Where?
London.
London.
You know, fish, chips, cup of tea, Mary Poppins, London.
This film is pretty much a comedy. It is absolutely hilarious, but it is also incredibly well scripted and directed. At one point, Snatch was in my top 10 list, but the films that are in there now did sort of sneak past it. But yeah, first one, Snatch.
Open the case and give me the stone.
The only man who knew the combination. You just shot.
Next up is James Cameron's Avatar. Now, I get all the controversy surrounding this film, and I do get it, but you cannot deny that this is just a landmark in movie history as far as special effects. The thing is, at the time of seeing this, I hadn't seen all the other movies that had been compared to, like Dancing with Wolves, Pocahontas and Ferngully, so that obviously helped my enjoyment of it. But certainly more over time, I've had my problems with it, like the predictability of the plot, and also those training sequences with Jake. I just find them a little bit tedious. But I am a huge sci-fi fan, and this film is just sci-fi heaven. So my last honourable mention would be The Dark Knight. I mean, do I even need to say anything else? Just Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker alone is just enough for this film to be considered one of the greatest of all time. It is a masterpiece, and it is probably the best, if not the best, Batman movie ever made.
So what are you proposing?
It's simple. Kill the Batman.
So now I'll get into my absolute favourites of all time. So the first one I want to mention in particular, I want to get out the way early because this is probably going to be the most controversial on this list. It was out in 1998, directed by Roland Emmerich, and it is, of course, Godzilla. Now listen, I see the flaws in this film, but I was 12 when I seen this. Prior to seeing this, I hadn't seen any of the other Godzilla films, so I wasn't really offended by the change in design that Godzilla went through. I completely understand that a lot of people were offended by the sort of drastic change in design, but it didn't affect me. So to me at the time, it was completely fresh and original. And I've always found this film to be just insanely entertaining, especially the scene with the Apaches and they're just like chasing him down and he takes them out one by one. Oh, beautiful. And then the scene after he's eating that huge mound of fish when they all fire at him and he's like dodging all the bullets and the rockets. Oh, it's just amazing. It's just beautiful. But also, if you think about it these days, in monster movies, it's very hard to find sort of human characters that are really likable. And I've always found in Godzilla, even the human characters I do love in them. Yes, they do dumb stuff and say dumb things, but I just think the overall greatness of what this film has to offer, I think just overpowers the silliness of the script. So next we have Peter Jackson's Brain Dead.
Your mother's dead, Lionel.
No. So, if you are a huge fan of insane amounts of gore, I mean, and you haven't seen this film, well, where have you been? Because it does not come much better than this. It's just absolutely all out insane and bonkers. I absolutely love it. How could this not be in my top 10? The director of Lord of the Rings made Brain Dead. It's insane.
You can beg for mercy. Help! Someone! But nothing you can do will stop.
But I will just say 3 words regarding this film. The lawnmower scene. So next, which I'm sure will be in a lot of people's lists, is Terminator 2. It is just simply one of the greatest action films of all time. And it expanded immensely on the first one as far as characters, lore, story, special effects, and it is just one of the greatest sequels of all time. I find that this and the first film have a very similar relationship to what Aliens has with Alien, in regards to how Aliens was bigger on lore and special effects and bigger and action, and in regards to how there is still a lot of people today that do prefer those first films in the series, that both more sort of horror-esque, they have a bit more tension and just have a bit more sort of darker atmosphere. So I completely understand that, but that's just quite interesting. So next up is Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. This trilogy pretty much gave birth to the word epic. Ever since they've came out, I don't think anything has topped them as far as scale and scope. Certainly one of the greatest, if not the greatest trilogy of all time. I especially love the sequence with the Oliphants when they come in for the attack. That is just one of my favourite movie sequences of all time. It is just goosebumps galore. So these next few films I've always considered to be right at the top. And the first one is another James Cameron film, and that is Titanic. Probably one of the first ever films I shed a tear to. I think it was probably E.T. before that. The chemistry between Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet is just absolutely incredible. So that, along with their characters that you are genuinely rooting for, and mixed in with a disaster movie, I think just made for an absolutely amazing cinematic experience.
It was. It really was.
All right, open your eyes.
So next up is Forrest Gump, which still remains probably one of the most original films of all time. There's so many things I love about it. For a start, it's Tom Hanks, say no more. It's funny.
Would you like a chocolate?
It's emotional.
She was my most special friend. My only friend.
It's insanely creative.
How does it feel to be an All-American?
I got a day.
It's very engaging, has a great message, and it's just utterly charming throughout. So I think one of the best words to describe Forrest Gump is just beautiful.
I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
Next up, another Roland Emmerich film, and that is Independence Day. Dogfights, massive destruction, Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum, what more do you need? I find Independence Day to be just simply one of the most entertaining and exciting films of all time. I absolutely friggin' love Independence Day.
We must launch a counteroffensive with a full nuclear strike.
Over American soil.
If we don't strike soon, there may not be much of an America left to defend.
So I'm confident this next one would be on most people's lists. It is considered one of the greatest films of all time, and that is Shawshank Redemption. I mean, holy mother, what a script and what a powerful movie. I don't think I really need to justify how great this film is. It is just one of the best crafted movies of all time.
I must admit, I didn't think much of Andy first time I laid eyes on him. He had a quiet way about him. A walk and a talk that just wasn't normal around here.
There are places in the world that aren't made out of stone. There's something inside that they can't touch. What are you talking about? Hope.
So down to the last two, which both of these would be considered my sort of definite top two. And the first one is The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. The battle at Helm's Deep is one of the best directed movie battles of all time. Gollum is one of the best movie characters of all time, period. In fact, what's not to love about every character in this trilogy? I always have preferred this to Return of the King because, for one thing, it doesn't cut as many times back and forth between the main battle that's happening and the other characters. And for one, you do see Smeagol in it a lot more. And yeah, I think just the battle at Helm's Deep, I think, is enough to give it that edge over Return of the King, I think. So the last one, which I would consider my absolute favourite movie of all time, and that is The Matrix.
So what do you need? Guns. Lots of guns.
No one has ever done anything like this.
That's why it's going to work.
Mr. Anders.
What are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets?
This and The Two Towers potentially are fighting for first place, but at the moment, yeah, I'm still sticking with The Matrix, I think.
Whoa.
Where I'd said Lord of the Rings defined the word epic, I think Matrix defined the phrase jaw-dropping and put the awe in awesome. On first watch, it blew my shoes and socks off so far I had to walk around all day barefoot.
Whoa.
The imagination and creativity that went into this film is just absolutely phenomenal. The world building is great, the plot is compelling. It is pretty much responsible for teaching me the meaning of the word philosophical. Just the whole synopsis and concept of The Matrix would be very much in line with what I would have wanted to have created if I was a filmmaker. It is fascinating and terrifying at the same time to think about whether our reality is real or not. No other flick has expanded my mind literally as much as The Matrix. It truly got me thinking outside of the box and sort of what is in store for humanity in the future. So apart from the deep themes being rich in lore and having a cool as hell concept, the action is intensely slick and thrilling, the characters are memorable, the dialogue is intelligent, and the plot is very immersive. So those are my favourite movies of all time. I may do another video that expands on this where I go more into my maybe top 20, top 30 possibly. So let me know which one of these films would make it onto your top 10 list. Are you surprised at some of the movies that made it to my list? Are there some on there that you think are overrated? Do you think there are some that are underrated? Are there others that you just completely despise? Are there certain ones that you're surprised didn't make my list? But for now guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure making this video. Don't forget to subscribe and I will catch you soon.